The ultimate armored tank of the African savanna is about to be utterly crushed today. A solitary rhinoceros mistakenly stands directly in the dangerous path of a highly volatile giant. This massive confrontation is not about territory, food, or even basic predator and prey survival. It is about a terrifying biological chemical reaction completely hijacking an already unstoppable physical force. Why would a heavily armored rhinoceros ever refuse to move away from impending certain death? What happens when 60 times the normal testosterone floods into a 4-ton biological battering ram? Can any amount of thick defensive armor actually survive a direct impact from absolute madness? The answers are devastatingly brutal. The harsh midday sun relentlessly bakes the dry dirt of the expansive South African wilderness. A massive male rhinoceros confidently guards a small, shrinking waterhole surrounded by thick thorny bushes. He weighs over 2 tons and wears a thick layer of virtually impenetrable dermal armor. Nothing in this harsh environment naturally hunts a fully grown, deeply aggressive adult male rhinoceros. He is practically invincible, and his poor eyesight makes him even more violently defensive today. Suddenly, the dry ground beneath his heavy feet begins to tremble with deep rhythmic vibrations. A massive bull elephant emerges violently from the tree line, towering high above the landscape. This specific elephant is not exhibiting the normally calm, deeply intelligent demeanor of his species. He is completely losing his mind. A dark, foul-smelling liquid heavily streams continuously down the sides of his massive gray face. He is in a biological state called musa, an uncontrollable and deeply violent hormonal surge. His testosterone levels are currently 60 times higher than those of a normal male elephant. This overwhelming chemical flood turns him into a deeply agitated, highly aggressive, unpredictable walking nightmare. He aggressively violently rips entire trees from the roots just to release his burning frustration. Every single animal in the vicinity instantly recognizes the danger and immediately runs far away. The apex predators, including lions and leopards, scatter widely out of his deeply chaotic path. But the stubborn rhinoceros adamantly refuses to yield his hard-earned position at the small waterhole. He trusts his impenetrable armor. The rhinoceros lowers his heavy head, pointing his massive keratin horn directly at the elephant. It is a deeply foolish and fatally confident display of extreme territorial dominance and power. The bull elephant immediately perceives this simple gesture as an unforgivable and deeply personal challenge. He unleashes a terrifyingly loud, ear-piercing trumpet sound that violently shakes the surrounding dusty air. The elephant completely ignores the sharp, dangerous horn pointing directly toward his highly sensitive stomach. He aggressively charges forward, instantly covering the short distance with terrifying speed and incredible momentum. The two massive titans brutally collide together with a sickeningly loud, bone-rattling physical impact sound. The armored rhinoceros heavily braces his short, powerful legs to firmly hold his defensive ground. He is severely outmatched today. The 4-ton elephant uses his massive trunk to violently push down on the rhino's back. At the same time, he thrusts his long ivory tusks directly under the rhino's belly. The incredible lifting power of the elephant's thick neck muscles completely defies normal mammalian biology. He forcefully lifts the entire 2-ton armored rhinoceros completely off the dry, dusty dirt ground. The rhinoceros desperately kicks his heavy legs in the air, instantly losing all his traction. Armor is completely useless when you suddenly lose all physical contact with the solid earth. The elephant violently flips the massive rhinoceros completely upside down with one brutal, terrifying thrust. The rhino crashes onto his back, exposing his soft, highly vulnerable belly to the sky. The fight is already over. But the chemically enraged elephant is entirely consumed by absolute fury and unquenchable biological rage. He does not stop simply because the foolish challenger is currently incapacitated on the ground. The massive bull raises his giant front legs high into the hot, dusty afternoon air. He viciously stomps down directly onto the exposed underbelly of the desperately struggling armored rhinoceros. The brutal impact violently crushes the internal organs with an absolutely terrifying and sickening force. The elephant methodically repeats this violent, deeply terrifying action again and again without any mercy. He is not hunting for food, nor is he merely defending his vital water source. He is blindly executing a violent biological imperative programmed deeply into his burning hormonal system. The destruction is deeply absolute. Stop and truly analyze the horrifying biological reality of what is unfolding on the ground. Musith completely overwrites the highly evolved, naturally empathetic social intelligence of the normal elephant brain. It temporarily transforms a gentle, deeply emotional giant into an unstoppable force of pure destruction. The crushed rhinoceros finally stops moving, completely succumbing to the overwhelming, absolutely devastating physical trauma. Yet the furious elephant continues to violently bash the lifeless body with his heavy tusks. He brutally drives his ivory spears deep into the thick, protective dermal armor repeatedly today. The famously impenetrable rhinoceros hide effortlessly tears apart under the sheer weight of the giant. It is a deeply sobering demonstration of the absolute physical hierarchy in the wild savanna. Size ultimately conquers thick armor. The elephant finally steps away, his massive chest heaving heavily as the red dust settles. He stands silently over the completely ruined, bloody remains of the once mighty armored titan. The dark, foul-smelling liquid continues to actively stream heavily down the sides of his face. The intense Musith phase will undoubtedly continue to aggressively control his brain for several weeks. He will slowly wander the savanna, constantly searching for receptive females or another unfortunate target. The deeply tragic fate of the rhinoceros serves as a grim warning to all animals. Never challenge a mountain when the mountain is actively burning with uncontrollable internal chemical rage. The elephant suddenly turns around, violently ripping another nearby tree completely out of the ground. He is still completely furious. He aggressively throws the heavy tree branch directly onto the lifeless body of the rhinoceros. It is an eerie, deeply chilling display of lingering aggression from the massive apex giant. Slowly, the elephant continues his deeply destructive, highly erratic march across the vast, open plains. He leaves behind a completely crushed ecosystem and a horrifyingly clear message of absolute dominance. Vultures silently begin to circle high above in the extremely hot, intensely bright blue sky. Scavengers will soon quietly gather to heavily feast on the extremely rare and massive bounty. The deeply tragic mistake of the rhinoceros will actively feed an entire ecosystem for weeks. In the brutal wild, stubborn arrogance often rapidly transforms into a highly unexpected survival resource. Death ultimately fuels new life. The African savanna continuously teaches deeply harsh lessons about the absolute limits of physical defense. Evolutionary armor successfully protects against claws, sharp teeth, and the sudden ambush of hungry predators. But absolute sheer mass and unbridled hormonal fury will always easily shatter the strongest shields. A heavily armored tank simply cannot survive a direct, brutal collision with a runaway train. The rhinoceros fatally believed his thick skin made him an utterly invincible and untouchable king. He forgot that nature always successfully engineers a significantly bigger and vastly more dangerous weapon. Biological chemistry ultimately dictates survival much more powerfully than any physical armor ever possibly could. The raging elephant marches onward, completely alone in his overwhelming and deeply destructive chemical haze. The savanna remains utterly silent. The terrified animals will continue to actively hide until the unpredictable giant finally calms down. When the musset phase eventually completely fades, the massive elephant will suddenly become peaceful again. He will peacefully interact with his complex social family, completely forgetting his own horrifying violence. But the utterly ruined remains left permanently on the dirt tell a completely different story. The wilderness never truly forgets the deeply terrifying consequences of a sudden, brutal chemical storm. The ultimate armored tank of the African savanna successfully survived countless sharp claws and teeth. But it was completely and utterly obliterated today by an unstoppable biological chemical raging storm.